Have you ever felt like American culture is running on an operating system you just can't quite figure out? It can seem loud, fast, and honestly, a little overwhelming at times. Well, today, we're going to decode that system and really get into what makes it tick.
At its core, the difference really boils down to this one simple thing. While its English roots value things like privacy and fitting in, American culture, well, it's evolved to celebrate the exact opposite. Standing out, being unique, and constantly pushing forward. And that one fundamental shift, it explains so much. And hey, if you've ever felt that intensity, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common reaction to the sheer energy of American life. So the big question is, why is it like that? What's going on under the hood? To really understand that feeling of a culture that's just loud, fast, and forward, we've got to look at its foundations. So let's do that. Let's unpack the 4 key pillars that make up this pretty unique cultural code. Okay, so first up, and this is the big one, it all starts with the individual. This is the absolute bedrock of American culture, the self-made ideal. See, in a lot of other places, family or the community comes first. But in the US, nope. The primary unit of society is the individual. And this isn't just, a slight preference. It's a belief that's ingrained from a really young age. Independence is something to be celebrated. The ability to do it on your own isn't just a useful skill. It's seen as a fundamental mark of a strong character. I love this analogy because it illustrates the difference in personal boundaries perfectly. The English have their castle, right? It's like a fortress of privacy. But Americans, on the other hand, have a bubble. It's the sphere of personal space they move through the world with. It's less about being totally closed off and way more about having the freedom to operate in your own zone. And you can trace this directly back to the historic frontier spirit. Seriously, the idea that you could just head out into the wilderness and build a life without anyone telling you what to do, that is baked into the national psyche. It creates this powerful sense of self-reliance and, honestly, a deep, almost instinctual distrust of any authority trying to meddle in your personal life. So you start with that self-made individual, and then you add this incredibly powerful belief system on top, the can-do attitude. This is really the engine of American optimism. It's the core idea that pretty much anything is possible if you just work hard enough. This comparison just highlights the difference so clearly. In a culture with a long and often difficult history, like the Slovak one, the default response to a huge challenge might be a very realistic, it can't be done, right? But the American is culturally programmed with a totally different default. Okay, so how do we solve this? Let's find a way. And this is, of course, the American dream in a nutshell. It's this powerful core belief that your success isn't determined by who your parents are or where you were born, but by your own effort and your own determination. It's a massive motivator that really fuels the nation's relentless pace and ambition. And here's something that's absolutely crucial. It's how failure fits into this mindset. In so many other cultures, failure is a huge source of shame. But here, it's often reframed as just a necessary step, a learning experience, on the path to iterating, improving, and eventually succeeding. The attempt itself, trying something bold, is what's really valued. Okay, so you take all of this, the focus on the individual, the need for speed, the drive for efficiency, and it all builds into a very distinct communication style. And if you're used to more indirect cultures, American directness can be, well, kind of jarring. There's just not a lot of time for what's known as polite vagueness. You've all heard the phrase, time is money, right? Well, it's key here. And it's not just about business. It's a cultural value that prizes efficiency in almost every interaction. Wasting time with ambiguity is seen as inefficient, so communication is designed to be as clear and to the point as humanly possible. So this shows up in a few key ways. For one, business meetings get straight to the point. And 2, you'll probably be on a first-name basis with your boss almost immediately. Now, this isn't seen as disrespectful. It's a reflection of another core value, egalitarianism. It's this idea that, hey, I'm just as good as you are, so we don't really need all those formal titles. Okay, so we've covered individualism, that can-do optimism, and directness. But how does all of this actually feel in a real social situation, like trying to make friends? This brings us to a really helpful analogy. The peach versus the coconut. Americans are often described as peaches. Think about it. They're soft and friendly on the outside. They'll smile at strangers, make small talk in the grocery line, ask, how are you? But getting past that initial friendly layer to the hard, pit in the center, to that place of deep, true friendship, that can take a surprisingly long time.
And that's a world away from cultures like the Slovak or the English, which are often described as coconuts. They can seem hard and reserved on the outside, maybe even a little cold at first. But if you put in the effort to break through that tough outer shell, the friendship you find on the inside is often immediate, incredibly deep, and fiercely loyal. This cultural snapshot just brings it all together so well. I mean, just look at the row for reaction to success. An English person might deflect and say, "Oh, I got lucky." A Slovak might get a little worried about standing out, thinking, "Yikes, I hope the neighbors don't notice." But the American response, which is just fueled by that individualism, is often a totally unapologetic, "I worked for this." And that, right there, just captures the difference perfectly.
And that brings us to our final question, and this one's for you. After seeing both models, the fast friendliness of the peach and the deep, earned loyalty of the coconut, which approach do you think makes for more meaningful connections? There's really no right answer, of course, but it's a fascinating way to think about how our culture shapes one of the most important parts of our lives.